This one's for real. All right. Just so everyone knows. Right? Let everyone know this beforehand that in this class on Tuesday, you'll take your quiz on fraction. They include multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. Wednesday, we will do a review for the entire chapter 3. Thursday, so you got to have video proof that I'm telling you this. Okay? So, Thursday will be your chapter 3 test. That'll include multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting both decimals and fractions, as well as equations with decimals and fractions. And I'm thinking that will be about around 10 questions. One question for each of those. So it'll be short and sweet, and we'll be able to tell where we're at from here. Yeah?
I'm pretty sure everyone notices that one or two of the same problems.
You know, we're going to talk about that. I'm glad you noticed that and brought it up. Because how many kids did notice before you started number 2 that 2 is the same thing as problem number 1? Did you know it before you start? How many kids noticed it after you got done with problem number 2, you realize, my goodness, they're the same problem. Okay? And here's the thing, too many times, kids, we get in the mode of, we block everything out in the world, including what these numbers are even saying, and you just get in the mind of must do math problem. And really, we should take a look and analyze. This one says that the tickets for senior citizens cost 8/10 times as much. It's a fancy way to say that the senior citizens costs are 80% of the adult tickets. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
80%? So, when we use that word of, we know that we're going to be multiplying. So one simple way, I even get rid of the 0 right here, and I just do this. 7.5 times 8/10. 5 times 8 is 40. You carry the 4. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 4 more gives us 60. Now, if we think about this, is there any way that the cost of the ticket's going to be $600?
No way.
Okay? Is there any way the cost of the tickets would be 60 cents?
No way.
It has to be $6. This makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, the true way to multiply decimals is we count the number of numbers we have in decimals. There's one right here and one right here. That's 2 places. So we start at the very end and we move it 1, 2 spots. We know our answer is $6. And the dollar sign goes in front of the 6, not after. Okay? Now, I'm going to show one other way to do this. I'm going to show one other way to do this. And I'm going to use the distributive property. It still works. So in other words, I'm going to look at 8/10 and multiply that by 7 plus 50 cents. And I'm going to distribute the 8 to the 7. 8/10 to the 7. Well, 8/10 times 7 will give us 5 6/10. Now we need to distribute this to the 1/2. Well, what is half of 8/10? Half of 8/10 is 4/10, right? Think about it for a second. This number right here is half. Half of 8/10 is 4/10. So when we combine them, we would say 4/10 plus 6/10 is 10/10. That's one more whole, and we have 6. So we got a little bit of reviewing of adding decimals, a bit of multiplying, and the distributive property, which, by the way, I've probably already told you this 100 times, but it's my favorite method of multiplication. Okay? The answer for number 1 is $6. Now, we already said that the answer for number 2 has to be 6. Because we know that 4/5 is the same thing as 8/10, which is the same thing as 8/10. It's the exact same problem. However, if you just put down 6 without showing work, please mark it wrong. Please mark it wrong because we need to show our work, we need to prove. Alright? We multiply mixed numbers. What's our first step that we need to do? When we multiply mixed numbers, we have to do what? Come on, raise your hands. What do you have to do when you're multiplying a mixed number? You have to do what? Convert it to an improper fraction. Right? The rule for multiplying is numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. Okay? So, if we see this fraction of 7 1/2, the method that most of you were taught is that we multiply these two, and we go all the way around this circle, and then we add here. Well, let me explain what this does. Okay? 2 times 7. The reason why we do that is because 7 is equal to, I'm going to write this over here, 7 is equal to 14 halves. That's why we do 2 times 7. Then we can take this 14 halves with the common denominator of 1/2 and combine 14 with 1 to get a grand total of 15 halves. Everybody agree with that? If you don't know how to do that, you need to make sure you watch this video and study that this weekend. To divide, to multiply mixed numbers, you have to convert to improper. Unless you distribute, if that's what you meant. 15 halves, and we multiply that by 4/5. Now yesterday we said we could either multiply and then simplify. I shouldn't say yesterday, 2 days ago because we dropped yesterday. And that gives us 60 over 10. And then we can just divide 60 divided by 10, and we get that same answer of 6. But those of you that like to simplify first, we look at our cross products and say, can we reduce? Is there a common factor, a number that will go into both 4 and 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 here, make it 1. Divide by 2 here and make it 2. Is there a common factor between 15 and 5? 5, right? So divide by 5, get 1. Divide by 5, get 3. When I do this, look at this. I get 6 over 1, which is equal to 6. Okay? I'm going to show the distributive property. I'm going to go a little bit quicker on this one. I'm going to take 4/5 times 7 first. 4/5 times 7. 7 over 1 times 4 over 5. And I get a grand total of 28/5. Then I take the second part right here and say 1/2 of 4 is what's half of 4/5? What's half of 4/5? 2/5. Now when we do the multiplying, we get 4 over 10, but it's simplified to 2/5. Now all we need to do is just combine these two, and we get a lovely fraction of 30 divided by 5. What's 30 divided by 5? I don't care which method you use. And I think on Wednesday we talked about how maybe we did. One student who told me, Mr. Martin, I now know when I'm a 5. If I can do both methods, I know I'm a 5. So kids, make sure you understand it. And the same thing, when you're working with groups and you're cooperating, Do the same thing.